Hey hosts, Q here. In the 1981 book, Simulacra and Simulation, John Baudrillard presents the ideas of the simulation and the simulacra. To Baudrillard, a simulation is an inexact copy of something real, a thing that has been made to act like a real thing. He contrasts this with the simulacra, which purports to be a simulation of something real. However, there's no actual original. To Baudrillard, the simulacra, because it has no connection to any reality, lacks any truth. An example of a simulation might be fan art and fan fiction. Fans create new works simulating the style, characteristics, and other aspects of the original franchise. They build on top of it, adding their own characters, taking them to new settings, and working to mimic the core appeal of the franchise that they are basing it on. But if fandoms simulate their source materials, what does furry fandom simulate? There is no core franchise that furry fans build their works on top of. Indeed, the key aspect of furry fandom is that they are fans of works made by and inspired by others within the fandom. In that way, furry works are fanfics of each other. In Baudrillard's definition, because furry fandom simulates itself, it is at its core a simulacra. This idea of recursive self-observation reminds me of the mathematical concept of iteration. If you take a mathematical function whose input and output are of the same type and feed it into itself an infinite number of times, then some functions will settle onto a value called a fixed point. At a fixed point, the input will equal the output. In Nolan S. Janosky's A Universal Approach to Self-Referential Paradoxes, Incompleteness and Fixed Points, Janosky showed that mathematical systems that are capable of self-representation are incomplete, or every function within that mathematical system will have fixed points. One such system capable of self-representation and therefore self-simulation is the Turing machine. Turing machines are the mathematical basis of computing. A computer program called a compiler takes human-readable text and turns it into executable code. A computer then can run that executable code and perhaps output human-readable text. The step of computation followed by execution is a function from human-readable text to human-readable text. So, it has a fixed point. We call these fixed points computer programs that can output their own source code quines. Every sufficiently expressive computer language will have quines. The ability to emulate or simulate is a core property of a computer, and it is at the core of computer-mediated performances like VTubing. VTuber characters are often simulacra, copies of things that don't exist. Fully sentient AIs, bunny girls, and Fucubi. But VTubers are also simulations. As I record this, a pattern of infrared dots is being projected onto my face. These motions are being mapped into a location in 52-dimensional vector space, and that animates a 3D avatar within my computer. Software then simulates what it would look like if a camera was to see this 3D object and projects that into a series of 2D images. Again, this is a simulation, atop a simulation. To Baudrillard, a simulation is inherently subtractive. It hides and obscures the underlying truth. Much like his writing, a simulacra, being a fixed point in a simulation, in Baudrillard's vision, cannot hold any truth. However, what if a simulation wasn't inherently subtractive? When you simulate something, you de-emphasize those aspects that you think are unimportant, and you exaggerate the parts that you think are important. You can't help but implant the truth of your own perspectives and experiences onto how the simulation is created. Just like when we examine computer games, what aspects of the world the developer chooses not to include, the negative possibility space of the game, tells us much about how the game world is conceived and the things that the developer values. When a simulation is folded back on itself and becomes simulacra, this effect is both filtered and amplified. When amplification is fed back on itself, it creates oscillation. That oscillation can be transformed into sound and even music. This is the sound of an 808 tom being produced by a synthesizer. A simulation of a drum sound that no real drum has ever played. A sound whose original source can no longer be made because it was due to a limited batch of transistors with a very particular flaw. 808 is a simulacra, but at the same time, it has backed some of the most moving and memorable works of music. There is nothing inherent to a simulacra that stops it from portraying truth. At its core, it is a medium that inherits the truth of those that created it. And as always, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.